Sorry about that, babe.
Burein Rōdo on the Super Nintendo. I actually started streaming this game and decided, well, not to stream it. In retrospect, I was clearly having a bad day. Work had been tough and my brain was fried. I was having trouble with some of the puzzles, backtracking in the more cryptic spots of the first dungeon, and thankfully I didn't scrap the project and decided to take it offline for Bits Plays, and boy am I glad that I did. Burein Rōdo is an action RPG that was developed by Produce, published by Enix and released in North America on October 1st of 1994. So if you're in the know and connect the dots, that means that Burein Rōdo is by the same development company that came out with the 7th Saga, aka Elnard. Furthermore, fans of my channel know that I love and adore the 7th Saga. I would easily deem it the most underrated / overlooked / whatever you want to call it, turn-based RPG on the Super Nintendo. So would Burein Rōdo be the same but in the action RPG genre? The story. The premise and story of Burein Rōdo is pretty simple. You start out as the character Reemer, which is actually the same name as the main male character in Mystic Arc, also by Produce, came out later, and I reviewed it a while back. I had actually forgotten this tidbit because I named my character Razor during my playthrough, but anyways. Reemer's father is the last of the Dragon Warriors. Yeah, I know, Enix. And he went out on a quest to find a dragon at the Tower of Light and never returned. Time passes, Reemer is now older and is ready to set out on his own journey to find out the fate of his father. Throughout this journey, Reemer will be joined by some companions, Pashian, Barnes, Rhine, and Ferris, which is another call forward to Mystic Arc, as Ferris is the default name for the female lead character. Reemer will have to traverse through 5 dungeons, a few connecting roads / dungeons, in the town of Arcs in Toronto. Yes, Toronto. Again, the story is pretty simple and straightforward, the companions are a nice touch, but I'd be lying if I said this game was some overly intriguing narrative with insanely captivating dialogue. It's just not. But that's okay. Graphics. The graphics of Burein Rōdo are nothing to necessarily write home about. The array of sprites, the color palette, the towns, etc., they all give off a very 7th Saga vibe. And while I did love the 7th Saga, the graphics were definitely not the strong suit there either. Don't get me wrong, some of the dungeons look pretty cool and are very differentiated. There are some interesting enemy and boss designs. The differences in weapons, the usages of the spells, they're all adequate enough, but in general I wasn't really wowed much, so to speak, until maybe perhaps later in the game when unearthing some hidden powers. And much like the story and dialogue, I'm gonna wrap this section up with yet again saying, but that's okay. Music and sound. Alright, I hope you're ready for good old bits to start marking out because here we go. Burein Rōdo's sound design is more than sufficient. Whether it be jumping around, attacking enemies, charging spells, shooting spells, navigating menus or what have you, it all makes sense, sounds good, it isn't overbearing, and it doesn't let silence fill the air. But where Burein Rōdo truly shines is its soundtrack. Composer Masanao Akahori delivered one of the most underrated or unknown soundtracks of the 16-bit era. This thing is filled with banger after banger after banger. There's honestly too much to name, and all I could say here is do yourself a favor and go listen to it on YouTube or something. Goodness gracious. I could not tell you how many times I bumped this soundtrack in my free time, or while working, or doing chores. It's seriously that good. There's an amazing mix of catchy, groovy, atmospheric, and unique tracks. It just nails it across the board. Almost every single track in this game is memorable, and I truly mean that. One of the hidden gem soundtracks of the 16-bit era, and dare I say, ever? Controls. The difference between a fun action RPG and/or action adventure game can simply come down to the controls, and thankfully Burein Rōdo does not fumble here. Now, I will say this, the default control scheme didn't jive with me. Thankfully, Burein Rōdo lets you remap the controls to that of your choosing, and it went a long way. The majority of your time in Burein Rōdo will be navigating dungeons, slaying enemies, solving puzzles, platforming, and so forth. And the control scheme of Burein Rōdo lends itself well to fluidity, tightness, and execution. You're able to move and jump around omnidirectionally, though I will admit the diagonal angles can be a bit tougher to pull off than north, south, east, and west, but it would be a stretch to say that it's a detriment. I very much enjoyed bounding around in the combat feel in Burein Rōdo. It was the furthest thing from clunky, and a tip of the cap here for sure. It's also worth mentioning that the menuing in Burein Rōdo is pretty RPG standard for the time. It's not overly complicated, and at the same time it's a little bit clunky. You can reorganize items on your personal inventory, but I'm not going to sit here and crown it as incredibly intuitive or fluid or anything. Gameplay and fun factor. This is where Burein Rōdo truly shines. It's such a fun time. The general setup of Burein Rōdo revolves around dungeon crawling in two hub towns, the towns of Arx and Toronto. In these areas, you'll be mostly gearing up at items, weapons, and spell shops, talking to townsfolk, advancing mini-quests and dialogue, before heading off on the path to and/or directly to the next major dungeon. The town of Toronto, which is encountered around the midway point of the game, is huge in comparison to Arx. There's so much to do and see here. There's even side-questy things such as the arena, where if you carry out the correct item and event triggers, you can enter this battle arena yourself, fighting enemies from the game and earning larger sums of cash than that of the overworld and dungeon drops, where typically you'll just be placing bets on the monsters to fight each other. Speaking of said cash, let's get into the leveling/gearing system in Burein Rōdo. It's pretty unique compared to most other RPGs. As Reemer, you actually don't level up whatsoever. When enemies are felled, they simply give you money. Said enemies also have a tendency to respawn quickly, so if you're ever in need of quick cash, it's not that hard to acquire. Enemies will also occasionally drop various healing items, warp gates, and these blue sphere-like items that actually do level something up, your jades. The jades in Burein Rōdo hold fairies that give you special powers, or can even help attack the enemies. You're able to have 2 jades out at any time and can freely swap between the 2 to suit your specific needs. For example, there are many dark areas of the game where you might want the light casting jade. Then, when in non-dark areas, you'll put it away in favor of a buffing or attacking jade. Jades, for the most part, are found while naturally progressing and exploring. However, there is a traveling salesman, named Meister, that sells extra jades, though admittedly that's more of a luxury thing, and not really necessary in order to beat the game. Touching on the items, there are a bunch in terms of healing. Apples, cheese, mushrooms, and meat. In the early game, the cheese will be your main squeeze. The mid or late game, it'll likely be mushrooms. And I hoarded the meat, which is found in breakable crates and from certain enemy drops. It serves as a full heal until the very end. There are also status restoration items such as the antidote herb, curing poison, and the cape herb, which cures paralysis from annoying shock brain enemies known as the lightning goblins. Quick note, poison in this game does not actually drain your HP. It gimps your attack down by half and ups your damage intake by half. Kind of annoying, but in its own special way. There are also support items such as the warp gate, which allows you to return to town or various levels/save spots of the dungeons. These are incredibly important and thankfully pretty cheap. Other items include the drink, which increases your speed, and the power and defense capsules, which double your power and defense for short periods of time. There are also a litany of items which can be found in dungeons in various places that can be sold at stores for large sums of cash, such as the crystal pieces. Now, some of my favorite items include that of the heart, which is used similarly like in Zelda, filling your life bar and increasing your overall health by 1 point. There's also the source of power and drop of protect items, which permabuff your stats by a randomized 1 to 3 points each. So if you want to get really granular, I guess you can keep resetting your game. Lastly, there are obviously some story element items, the magic wallet, which apparently can store and gain passive income over time, though I found this item to be useless personally. I didn't use it at all during my playthrough. And of course the X-ray glasses, which are found in the first dungeon of the game. Those are used to see the map of the current dungeon level, aka my lifeline since I'm an idiot and I never know where I'm going. Along with the combat and general exploration are the puzzle and secret elements in Burein Rōdo, some of the biggest allures to this title. My favorite thing about the puzzles is that some of them can be pretty tricky, but they aren't overly complex. Sometimes you'll just have to think it out, sometimes there are semi-cryptic hints, and other times there are physics involved. It really touches on a wide array of puzzle solving. And for someone like me who isn't natively great at puzzles, I felt this was a perfect balance and loads of fun. There are also many secrets and side areas that could be found while exploring dungeons, helping scratch that completionist itch. For the most part, I think I got the majority, but I do know that I missed something in the ice castle because I had a key that was unused at the end of the game. Always next time. It goes without saying that the dungeon variety is also a major strong point in Burein Rōdo. There are 5 major dungeons in total: the Tower of Light, the Abel Ruins, the Ice Castle, Droog Volcano, and the Platinum Shrine, all of which are very unique differentiated and have their strong points. As mentioned earlier, the controls, movement, and combat are all very tight, fluid, and quick in Burein Rōdo. This helps make platforming and battling loads of fun. Another aspect that I feel that is absolutely nailed here are that of the bosses. They all have their own unique style, weaknesses, and gimmicks. With a tight control scheme and a litany of weapons and spells at your disposal, slaying them proves to be a blast. I think if I had to pick my favorite boss of the game, it would be that of the Abel Ruins, aka the Grand Slam robot with a magnetic pull mechanic. But truthfully, they're all pretty good. Speaking of the wide array of equipment available, that's actually how Reemer levels up, so to speak. Since he doesn't level up in a traditional sense, it's all about outfitting him with the best equipment and spells. Lots of weapons, armor, and spells can be purchased in both Arcs and Toronto, but many of them, and more, are found by exploring the dungeons and progressing the story. I actually kinda like this quote leveling system with Reemer and the Jade Fairies. It's a unique spin that didn't go in a brutal direction such as, I don't know, Final Fantasy II's botched outside the box thinking. It really just works. And I wanted to give a quick special shout out to the Morning Star weapon. It has this pretty sick spin attack when he's in the D-pad. It's the little things like that, you know? So yeah, decent graphics, amazing soundtrack, great controls, fun exploration, tight combat and an interesting leveling system, challenging but fair puzzles, secrets and a few cryptic spots for the completionists, good dungeon and boss variety. This sounds like an all-time banger, does it not? Well, Burein Rōdo is sadly not without its flaws. Critiques. I won't lie to you. When I was nearing the end of the game, I was having crazy thoughts of crowning Burein Rōdo the goat of goats. But there were a few things that quickly came to light, mostly towards the tail end of the game, which grinded my gears and made me take a step back. Let's start on the minor gripe front. While the controls and platforming in Burein Rōdo are generally tight, there can be some annoying spots of the game, especially when it comes to pixel recognition and landing on edges. Furthermore, if an enemy drops a Jade upgrade item, and the fairy goes and gets it and you're in midair, you are more likely going to fall and have to restart your platforming. I mentioned earlier that the story wasn't an overwhelming strong point for Burein Rōdo, and that's truly the case. Sure, the dialogue isn't terrible by any means, and it definitely doesn't overstay its welcome. There are a few funny spots here and there, but truthfully the translation really isn't that great. It's just apparent the more that you play and speak with your companions and NPCs. Another minor gripe that I have is that Reemer's weapons and shield sprites change throughout the game as you upgrade, but this doesn't happen with the armor. A big missed opportunity there, as some of the armor sets look sweet on the item screen. To this point, most of my gripes are pretty minimal. But let's get into my two biggest gripes that I had with Burein Rōdo. The first is the slowdown. My god, it's bad in some spots, like I'm talking terrible. Especially if you're trying to zip through and not kill every enemy, since again, you don't get experience from felling the baddies. There are tons of spots of just atrocious slowdown, and it could be particularly infuriating when you're in the middle of a platforming segment or a timing related puzzle mechanic. And the other gripe that I have is simply, the last two dungeons of the game are not as engaging as the first three. The Droog Volcano is a pretty run-of-the-mill volcano slash cave slash mountain feeling dungeon. The main gimmick of it is the Cave of Silent Stones, which revolves around appearing slash disappearing stones which could block your path in dimly lit spaces. It seems to be pretty RNG based. I appreciate the concept of trying something new, but the reality of the execution is very meh. I remember one spot where I just walked in and out of the room until I got the path that I needed. Kind of a time waster. And the final dungeon, that of the Platinum Shrine, pretty much is a summary of almost every gripe that I do have with Burein Rōdo. There's tons of slowdown, some annoying platforming segments due to the slowdown and or annoying enemy placement, and the dark area slash dark zones, which are exactly what they sound like, areas of the dungeon that are completely dark mazes. My advice there is to use a magic spell that pings off of the walls to help you find your way through, or use a guide. But let's be positive and wrap up our critiques with something that ended up not bothering me at all, really. There are a few instances of backtracking in Burein Rōdo, but it's reasonably well done and not overly lengthy. I also quite enjoyed using warp gates to go back to the towns and then warping back to the floor of the dungeon that I was on. It made it feel like a true dungeon crawler at times, needing to retreat, heal, gear up, save, and head back in. And yeah, that's about all I had for the gripes for Burein Rōdo. In summation, I'm kicking myself for not getting to this game sooner. Burein Rōdo is truly the action RPG equivalent of what the 7th Saga was to a turn-based RPG for me. An absolute underrated, underappreciated banger. Burein Rōdo boasts one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. A tight control and combat scheme, cool dungeons, puzzles and secrets, an intriguing variety of bosses, fun hub town areas, an interesting quote leveling system between Reemer's gearing and the Jades. And at the end of the day, the game is just fun. Held back by a bit of a lacking story, some shoddy translation dialogue, areas of in-game slowdown, and the team at Produce running out of steam down the stretch with the final 2 dungeons both lacking and having annoying gimmicks. That being said, Burein Rōdo is now part of the 3-headed dragon meme as the Giga Chad along with the 7th Saga, with the derpy one being Mystic Arc. I give Burein Rōdo on the SNES a 9 out of 10. It was a truly wonderful experience. I recommend any fan of the action RPG genre that enjoys light puzzles and exploration to give this a go. I will absolutely be revisiting this one on the side for an all retro achievements run. If you've enjoyed this review, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing if you haven't already. If you want to see my first ever playthrough of Burein Rōdo, check out the pinned comment or description below or end screen. And if you want to check out my 7th Saga and Mystic Arc coverage, I will also put that in the pinned comments and description below. Take care.